I'm Edward Conlon, host of Talk to Me, the new podcast about the origin of hostage negotiations. Through the first-hand accounts of the NYPD's hostage negotiation team founders, we delve into real cases, big and small, to hear how the team pioneered the use of psychology to save lives. Their motto was, "Talk to me." It changed policing forever. Listen to, follow, rate, and review Talk to Me now at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts, beginning October 19th.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 287 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
Yeah, it's been a rough week for me, man.
Suffering a little bit?
Yeah, I've been sick all week. You and I had to postpone recording until later in the week to try to give my voice a chance to be at least adequate, and hopefully I can make it through this episode.
You want me to take over all the talking?
Might have to. You might have to jump in to like tag in.
Yeah.
Like in the wrestling matches. But let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Rebecca Vale.
Hey, Rebecca.
Lori Douglas.
What's up, Douglas?
Zach Rainey.
Hey, Rainey.
Matt Hudson.
Hey, Matt.
Heather Roberts.
There's Heather.
Emily E.G.
What's going on, E.G.?
Christina Noonan.
Hey, Noonan.
Aaron McCoy.
Hey, McCoy.
Brenton Lane.
Well, what's up, Britton?
Fanner Thor.
Hey, Fanner.
Alley Cat is wishing a belated birthday to Hotel Plumber.
Well, that Hotel Plumber, I tell you what.
Nicola Boyd.
Hey, Nicola.
Janet Ora.
What's up, Aura?
Hey, Degrassi, make this reboot count.
Well, you're a Degrassi fan. I guess you know what they're talking about.
Nick LeBlanc.
Hey, I wonder if that's related to Matt, you know?
Matt?
Yeah.
Might be Matt's brother.
Could be.
Rob Joe.
Hey, Rob.
RQ Ven Slots.
What's up, Slots?
Raymond.
Hey, Raymond.
Merlai Ember Rose.
What's up, Ember?
Rachel Parker.
Hey, Rachel.
Uncle Sai Sai.
Well, thanks, Sai Sai.
And last but not least, Shane Taylor.
That's awesome, Shane.
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Terry Lawrence.
Hey, good old Terry. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the new support, the continued support. We had great PayPal donations from Lauren Porter.
Man, there's Lauren.
And Robin Taylor.
And thanks, Robin.
So, Gibbs, right now on TCAT, we have an episode out on Paul Bateson. This was a guy who was an extra in the movie The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And then murdered a well-known Variety reporter. They also tried to pin a series of murders on him called the Bag Murders.
It's a good episode.
It is. You know, we're going to New York City and are obviously talking about the murder of this reporter as well as Paul Bateson. But then there's this kind of side thing, which is a series of murders that happened in New York City and then prosecutors trying to pin those on Paul Bateson as well.
Is it bad every time you say New York City tonight? I'm thinking about those chips and salsa commercials.
Oh, people love it when you talk about the New York City.
New York City.
All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I'm ready.
We're talking about the murders of Nancy and Joey Bochicchio. In December 2007, Nancy Bochicchio and her daughter Joey were found dead in Nancy's SUV in the parking lot of a Boca Raton, Florida mall. An unknown individual kidnapped Nancy and Joey. Nancy was forced to withdraw money from an ATM, and she and her daughter were fatally shot in the backseat. And this was not the only tragedy that had occurred in the area. In that same year, the Town Center Mall was the location of two other similar cases.
I used to go to this mall a lot back in the day. Love that mall.
Yeah, you said it earlier, I think on Patreon, that you used to visit Boca Raton a lot. Now, you were vague on the reasons why.
Because I knew a guy that knew a guy, but outside of that, I would stop at this mall, and man, it was a beautiful mall. I'm assuming it still is a beautiful mall. And it had the best chocolate store in there. It was called Palm Beach Confectionate. Best chocolate you could ever get. I would even have it shipped up here sometimes.
I think some people from Europe would disagree with you, but
well, like I have like I'm a connoisseur of chocolate,
a connoisseur of anything.
Yeah, there you go. True.
So on March 23rd, 2007, Randy Gorenberg was abducted after leaving this mall in Boca Raton. Randy was a 52-year-old married mother of 2 children. According to NBC, Randy's mother, Heidi Elias, said Randy was a very down-to-earth, very basic, loving daughter, wonderful mother. Randy went to the town center mall alone on March 23rd, just before noon. And you mentioned it, right? This town center mall, at least when you went there, was very nice. We have no idea, but I'm sure it is, like you said, still today. It had high-end stores like Cartier, Louis Vuitton, Neiman Marcus, Saks Fifth Avenue. Okay, I can tell you right now that my local mall has none of those.
And if it did, you wouldn't be wearing any of that stuff anyway.
No, I wouldn't. But just talking about, a really nice mall versus the mall that we have. We don't even have, what we got, JCPenney's? Are they still there? I know Sears is out of business. Ours was a very basic mall.
It was.
You got a pretzel place, and then you've got JCPenney's and Sears. That's kind of how it always was.
That was your good luck shopping.
Yeah. Randy went to the mall to buy clothes for a night out. She was seen pausing outside the entrance to check her voicemail. Randy left the mall at 1:16 p.m. Police couldn't see what happened to her once she got to the parking lot because there were no security cameras. There were also no eyewitnesses to the actual kidnapping. But Randy was shot and pushed out of the passenger side of her vehicle at Governor Lawton Childs Memorial Park in Delray Beach. At 1:54 p.m., someone called 911 to report that a woman had been shot. The caller saw someone fall out of the passenger side of a black Mercedes SUV behind the South County Civic Center next to the park. This is about 5 miles from the mall. The caller said that the woman was dead and had 2 gunshot wounds to her head. So police went to the scene. They found Randy. She didn't have any shoes on, but her jewelry, which was reported as a Cartier watch, a diamond ring, and a necklace, was still on her.
Well, obviously it wasn't robbery.
Well, I think, we kind of talked about this in our TCAT case this week. When you're looking at the motive of a crime, robbery's a big one that pops up in a lot of instances. But when someone's wearing a Cartier watch, diamonds,
it's a lot of money.
There's a lot of money to be had very quickly, right? Those are easy things to grab as you're fleeing the scene. So to your point, can you rule it out completely? I would say no, but you're going to lean towards it not being about robbery, because why wouldn't the perpetrator take these things with him or her?
Yeah, like you said, it's an easy grab and it's fairly simple defense, those items.
Yeah, I'll take your word on that, but I'm assuming you're right. Randy didn't have any identification, and the SUV was gone. And according to the Tampa Bay Times, Randy was found wearing a piece of costume jewelry that had friends and relatives scratching their heads. It was an interlocking ring found on her finger that people close to her had never seen before. And this raised the eerie possibility that the killer may have slipped it on her finger before or after shooting her.
That's intriguing.
We just talked about the fact that she was wearing, all of this expensive jewelry that was not removed. But now we have the notion or the thought that maybe this very cheap piece of costume jewelry was actually placed on her finger. What does that mean? Randy's car was found later behind a Home Depot. Her John Legend CD was found inside the stereo of her SUV, but the CD case, her sneakers, and her purse were missing.
It's kind of strange that whoever committed this crime took a CD case, her sneakers, and her purse, because they're missing, so I'm assuming that person took them, but yet she had all this expensive jewelry on. They didn't touch it.
Well, it could have been the perpetrator, and I think it most likely was because I think they found the car fairly quickly after the 911 call. 5-10 minutes. I mean, it's possible that somebody could have broken into it, but I think it was found in relatively short order. Why take the CD case?
Unless you thought
you touched it?
There you go.
Maybe.
I
mean, CDs are, what, $11, $12 back then? Or I don't even know what they are now, to be honest with you, but I haven't purchased an actual CD in many, many years.
So not a lot of value there.
No, not a lot of value. And again, back to not taking any of the rings and the watch and all that. My only thought is if you thought you somehow touched it, well, you would want to take it with you.
Right.
A Chrysler 300 was seen on surveillance video following a car resembling Randy's SUV behind the Home Depot. When police got to Randy's home, they found a young man talking on the phone and smoking a cigarette. He was Randy's son, Daniel, and he didn't know his mother had been killed. Now, Daniel's alibi wasn't very strong. He gave them the clothes he said he was wearing that day, but it turned out they were the wrong clothes.
Honest mistake or some foul play?
Well, so I want to go back to the police showing up at your house and informing you that your mother has been found dead, right? Devastating. But then it sounds like fairly quickly suspicion turned to him.
Sure.
Which it does. It turns to people close to the victim. It always does. But then they find out that he doesn't give them the actual clothes that he was wearing that day. Doesn't make you look great.
No, because you have to ask the question, why? Why wouldn't you give me the clothes you wore that day?
It was said that Randy's husband, Stuart Gorenberg, didn't have what many would call a typical response when he was told of his wife's murder. And he hired a lawyer a few days later, and then he and his son stopped speaking directly to the police. So police thought that was suspicious.
I get it, but what he did wasn't wrong either.
No, it's something you and I have talked about quite often. I think, especially today, more and more people understand your rights, their rights. They understand that the immediate family of a victim is often looked at by police. You could view it as a smart tactic.
Sure.
To hire a lawyer, but it's not going to stop the police from thinking, why would you hire a lawyer if you didn't have anything to do with your wife's murder? Why won't you talk to us? Don't you want to help us find the killer of your wife and your mom?
Yeah, I get that too.
So I never make as much out of that per se as I think some people do. Now, when someone says you didn't have a typical response upon hearing that your wife was murdered, okay. Now, what does somebody mean by a typical response? Everybody acts a little differently, but
it's still some type of general
grieving type of process. Yeah. But I think when you put the two together, right? Police are suspicious. The son does what he does, and then the father is acting in a way that they think is a little strange. Randy's mother called the news conference to ask for help. Stuart and Daniel didn't participate. Guy Fronstein, Gorenberg's attorney, told NBC that Stuart Gorenberg had nothing to do with Randy's murder and was devastated. And that may have well been true. But I think when your wife's mother calls a news conference and you don't show up, you don't participate in asking the public for help, rightly or wrongly, people are going to look at that as very suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, the perception's not going to be great.
The police looked into the Gorenbergs' finances, their home life, and what was described as Daniel's emotional history. But months later, they really came up with nothing. According to Bronx Justice News, Daniel Gornberg was later arrested for allegedly trying to fraudulently obtain prescription drugs. This happened months later in August of that year. The charge was later dropped. Stewart was charged with insurance fraud, but those charges were later dropped as well. Unknown DNA was found inside Randy's car. There's been no DNA match so far. 8 friends and associates of Randy's son Daniel were tested. Randy's husband, Stewart, has not been eliminated as a suspect, as far as we could tell. This information comes from Palm Beach Sheriff's Office detectives who testified in a lawsuit filed by Stewart against them all. Then on August 7, 2007, a woman and her 2-year-old son survived a carjacking at the town center mall. The survivor keeps her name private for her own safety. In June 2008, Jane Doe spoke with NBC about surviving the carjacking. She and her son went to the mall. On August 7th, they left Nordstrom around 1 p.m. She put her son into the vehicle and strapped him in his car seat in the back seat. She went to the back of her truck to put her stroller in, then shut the gate. As she walked to the front, she heard her son say in a scared voice, "Mama, Mama." When she looked up, a man was sitting next to her son in the back seat. He was wearing a floppy hat and wraparound sunglasses.
Be a scary moment.
Well, I think it would be a scary moment even if you were by yourself. I think the fear gets ratcheted up when this guy's sitting next to your young child. It would all be scary. But,
Sure.
For me, it's one thing to think about myself. It's another thing to think about harm coming to one of my children.
Right.
For some reason, that scares me more than something happening to me. And I'm sure maybe a lot of parents have that same thought. She told NBC, "I was in shock at that moment. And I just stood there and the guy said, 'Get in the car.' And I was frozen. And when he said, 'Get in the car' for the second time, that's when I noticed the gun. This man was pointing the gun at her son. He told her to drive to a drive-through ATM. Once they got to the ATM, he told her to withdraw $200 multiple times. In all, she withdrew $600. The man told her, 'Just do what I say and I'll take you back to the mall.' He told Jane to pull into traffic. She looked at the car next to her, but she had dark windows, so it was difficult for other drivers to see inside her car. She considered crashing the truck, but she was scared that this man would hurt her son. He told her to park in the Hilton's back parking lot and then to get out. She said that she begged this man not to kill her. He told her, 'I'm not going to. I don't need any more problems than I already have, or any more trouble than I'm already in.'" So, you hear that. On the one hand, there's a little bit of comfort there. I'm not going to kill you.
You feel like, relieved.
If you believe this person.
Yeah.
But then the next thing that comes out of this man's mouth is, "I don't need any more problems than I already have, or to get into more trouble than I'm already in." So now you have to be wondering, what else has this guy done?
And your anxiety goes up through the roof again.
The man told Jane to switch with him and get in the back seat. He handcuffed her wrists behind her back, zip tied her ankles together, and zip tied her neck to the headrest. Then he put sunglasses with duct tape over her eyes. Jane said, "I started losing it. I started choking myself because the zip tie was so tight. I was choking myself and I couldn't breathe. I was gagging and crying, and I was just hysterical." And I know, Gibbs, I've mentioned it many times. I have some phobias. One of those is about being confined.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine myself having my throat zip tied to the back of the seat, and it's like causing me to break out in a mild sweat here.
Oh yeah.
It's a physical reaction.
Add the ocean and heights to it, and then you're done.
The proximity to the beach, and that I would not be able to handle. The man loosened the zip tie around her neck. He pulled into traffic, but then he stopped. He reached into a plastic bag and pulled out a knife. Again, Jane begged him not to kill her, but he didn't. He cut the zip tie off her neck and started driving. Jane said that she thought to herself that This guy didn't know the local roads because he ended up on the Florida Turnpike, which was a toll road, and eventually he had to make a U-turn.
Maybe not a local.
Well, I think it's an important point. If he was local, then he made a big time mistake.
Sure.
Just thoughtless, not thinking. Or he's not local, doesn't know that this thing's a toll road, and once he sees that it is, realizes he can't go through the toll.
Exactly.
There's cameras, there's all that.
For people working the toll booths.
So they continued driving for about 2 hours until he stopped back at the town center mall. He told Jane he would zip tie her neck again and let her call someone so she could say that her truck broke down and she needed someone to pick her up. She called her son's father. In this NBC interview, Jane said that she felt like her kidnapper changed into a nicer guy in a way. She said it was kind of like a different person almost.
Maybe he felt guilty for what he was doing, and maybe he liked her and said, you know what, I can't do this.
Yeah, I think there's some things that you can try to make from it. He told Jane that she needed to describe him to the police as short, fat, and black. He took her sunglasses off and put a pair of blacked out swimming goggles over her eyes. He told her, if I see anything on the news with my face or my picture, even my description, I will come after you. And then he slammed the door to her truck and left.
Wonder how long you would sit there until you say, okay,
I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit. You're scared.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, give it a little time, I would think, for this guy to actually leave. But I don't know that Jane waited all that long. She put her hands under her butt, rolled her feet, pulled the goggles up, pushed the headrest up, and drove to the valet parking lot. She told the valet she had just been kidnapped. At first, he didn't believe her, but she showed the restraints, and then obviously he called the police. So, obviously you got to look at this from a couple of different viewpoints. Obviously what Jane Doe went through was terrifying.
Oh, for sure.
But this man leaves. She makes the decision that I'm going for it. I got to get out of here. I got to get, to help. Then you have to look at it from the perspective of this valet. This woman rolls up and says, I've been kidnapped. Now, I don't know why you wouldn't believe someone, but obviously when she lifts up her hands, shows the zip ties and all that, you better start taking her serious at that point. You probably should have from the beginning.
To be that valet person, to see that happening, it would seem kind of unreal at first, I think. But like you said, once they show the zip ties, I mean, you have to kind of be like, okay, something's going on here. This is not right.
Well, yeah, but would your first inclination be to not believe a woman?
I don't think it would be mine, but I guess I could see it being somebody's.
I guess. I don't know. For me, I guess I have this thing where if a woman came up to me and said X in just, the situation we just described, what would be the reason why I wouldn't believe her? What would be the reason why I think somebody would just come up and say that to me, making it up?
I mean, if I just came up to you nice and calm and like, oh, hey, by the way, I was just kidnapped a little bit ago. Can you help me out? I don't think that's how it was presented.
No. This is not somebody who's trying to scam you for money because they, quote unquote, ran out of gas.
Exactly.
Which we've all
oh my gosh,
been there.
Yeah.
True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep. While you're listening to Gibby and I talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2020 and May 2021. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations. Don't be a copycat entrepreneur. Unleash your killer business idea to the world with Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling your own homemade goods or maybe a little true crime paraphernalia, start selling with Shopify. Shopify allows you to customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that will keep them coming back. Shopify covers all the sales channels to successfully grow your business. They have 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses. When we switched to Shopify for selling our podcast merch, it completely changed everything about the process. It made everything so much easier. When you're ready to take your idea to the world, do it with Shopify. Now it's your turn to try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. This is possibility powered by Shopify. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/unsolved, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/unsolved to start selling online today. Shopify.com/unsolved. For true fans of true crime, the Generation Y podcast is essential listening. Host Aaron and Justin started this podcast in 2012 to dissect some of the craziest and most notable murders, crimes, and conspiracy theories together. And 10 years later, they're still at it, unraveling a new case each week. Aaron and Justin take on infamous cases like the Evil Genius bank robbery, the Zodiac killer, and the Tylenol murders. And they also cover lesser-known cases like the case of Kimberly Rico, aka the Valentine murder, where Kim takes her husband on a romantic weekend. That includes a murder mystery play that she, of course, uses as a cover to murder him for insurance money. The two go over every angle, breaking down theories, diving deep into forensic evidence, and interviewing those close to the case. And honestly, it feels like you're in the room with them while they get into it. Follow the Generation Y podcast on Amazon Music or listen early and ad-free by joining Wondery Plus on Apple Podcasts or the Wondery app.
But Jane also thought the police didn't believe her at first.
Well, I think there was a part of that because in the reporting, it seemed as though they thought she could have gotten herself free from the restraints. Apparently, they also doubted her because the SunPass electronic device on her car didn't record her car entering the toll road, and there was no debit on her account. Now, I've seen those SunPass signs. I've been to Florida many times,
Sure.
but I've never lived in Florida. So I don't understand exactly how they work. I thought there was only a record when you went through the actual toll portion, but maybe there's a portion on every entrance ramp as well. I don't know.
Maybe. We're lucky we don't have those around here.
No, but if we did, maybe our roads wouldn't be as bad as they are.
I was thinking, or maybe we're unlucky we don't have them around here.
But here again, okay, I get the electronic device that's telling police something, but for them not to believe her because they thought she could have gotten out of the zip ties. What's the reason? Again, it's kind of like the valet.
Yeah.
Why do you not want to believe someone until you're given proof or you receive some type of proof that leads you to believe that they're not telling the truth? Police Captain Matthew Duggan spoke with NBC and said, "I wouldn't classify it as doubting a victim. I would clarify it as substantiating what they said because ultimately, when we catch this guy, it will be evidence against him." Okay, that makes sense if that's what really happened. You do need to substantiate what a person is saying.
It's definitely a better way to clarify what happened.
It's also a good way to CYA.
Yes.
And that's sometimes how people look at that when the police come out and say things like that. They asked Jane to take a lie detector test. Duggan said, "We have to be objective in what we look at And if a lie detector was used, it would be another tool that would just substantiate stories. According to ABC, Jane failed the lie detector test. And I don't think you and I need to spend a lot of time talking about lie detector tests and what we think about them.
We've had our own experiment here.
Crime scene technicians went to the scene to process the car and collect fingerprints and DNA. This story wasn't widely reported on at the time. The police issued a news release that described the kidnapping as an alleged armed robbery and didn't say anything about how Jane was kidnapped or how the man pointed a gun at her son. Only the Palm Beach Post reported on the case at the time. Detectives got a video from the toll plaza a few days later, which confirmed that Jane's vehicle had gone through the plaza. Her SunPass device had malfunctioned.
There you go. I'm sure she's thinking, I told you so.
I'm sure she was thinking a lot more than that.
Yeah, I'm sure she was too.
Months passed, and Jane didn't hear anything from the police. She thought they would never catch the man who kidnapped her. Then in November 2007, she got a call from a sheriff's detective with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office asking if she could talk to them. They were working on the abduction and murder of Randy Gornberg in March of that year. The police did notice the similarities between the two cases, but there were also some significant differences. Number one, Randy was murdered. Jane was not. Jane had been tied up, but Randy had not been tied up. The motive for Jane's kidnapping was to get cash from the ATM, but Randy didn't have an ATM card. The police thought Randy might have been killed because she resisted and tried to escape the vehicle. Detective Bill Springer thinks the killer might have been angry because she didn't have a debit card.
Yeah, but she had probably at least $10,000 in jewelry on her.
In November 2007, Jane worked with a police sketch artist to create a sketch of her kidnapper. A month later, another tragedy occurred at the town center mall. So obviously we're going to get back to Nancy and Joey Bochicchio, but I want to talk about Jane again for a minute. This man specifically told her, if I see a sketch, if I see anything on the news about my description, I'll find you and I'll kill you.
Yeah.
So she had to make that decision. To me, very brave.
Oh, for sure. To go against that and give a description anyway.
Yeah, because, if you think about it, it's not just for her. Sure, she wants her attacker killed. My thinking is, though, that she didn't want this to happen to anyone else. So very brave. Very, very brave of her. That's my thought. Nancy Joanne Bochicchio was born on August 21st, 1960 in the Bronx, New York. Nancy did charity work, and she was a child advocate. She was described as tough with a kind heart and a good spirit who would help anyone and always saw the best in a person. It was said by those who knew her that Nancy was best friends with her daughter, Joey. Nancy worked as a stock analyst and ran her own business. Her Find a Grave profile says that she worked hard to pay for Joey's tuition at school.
It's kind of like, well, we all work hard sometimes, we got to pay that tuition for our kids.
Well, and a lot of times it's all for the kids, you got to live, you got to do this, you got to do that, but kids are expensive.
They are.
Nancy and her ex-husband divorced in 2006. Joey Noel Bochicchio Hauser was born in New York on December 17th, 1999. Joey was described as mild-mannered, outgoing, mature, sweet, happy, bubbly, smart, and many other positive adjectives. Her Find a Grave profile says she was always nice to strangers and said hello to everybody.
So a good kid.
Yeah, good kid. Joey liked ballet and golf and wanted to be a cheerleader. She attended a Catholic school in Florida. Joey was said to have been a miracle daughter. Nancy's sister, Joanne Bruno, told NBC that Nancy's doctor told her at 40 years old she wasn't going to be able to have children. So when she got pregnant with Joey, she thought it was a miracle. On December 12, 2007, Nancy picked Joey up early from school to take her to a doctor's appointment. Afterward, they went to the town center mall in Boca Raton, Florida. They were shopping for Christmas cards. At 2:19 p.m., Nancy and Joey entered the mall using entrance 4 between Sears and Neiman Marcus. They left through the same door at 3:11 p.m. But police didn't see Nancy and Joey get to their car because, as we said before, there were no cameras in the parking lot. It was said, though, that Nancy and Joey left through the same exit, as did Randy Gorenberg.
Interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially if you think the perpetrator is somewhere out in the parking lot outside of this entrance, stalking, maybe sitting in their car, waiting to see who's coming out of the mall.
You know, when we researched this, I was thinking, why hasn't the management at this mall put some cameras out?
Yeah, I definitely had that thought as well. I also had the thought that, 2007 at kind of a swanky mall.
Yeah.
You would have thought that they would have had some type of outdoor security cameras. But when you had multiple incidents earlier in the year, you would think by December, somebody would have said, we've got to get some cameras up in these lots.
Like you said, it was 2007. The technology was there. So why not make the decision to get them installed?
Investigators believe that Nancy and Joey were abducted and taken to an ATM, and Nancy was forced to withdraw $500. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call from Nancy's cell phone, but the call disconnected before dispatch answered it. The operator tried to call back, but didn't receive a response. Minutes after the 911 call, Nancy's SUV was seen at a drive-through ATM, which was the exact same one that Jane Doe went to. Nancy withdrew the $500, but no one really knows when Nancy got back to the mall parking lot. Just before midnight on December 12th, a security guard at the Town Center Mall saw a black 2007 Chrysler Aspen with its engine still running parked near the Sears department store. He used a non-emergency line to contact the Boca Raton Police Services Communication Center to ask for an officer to look at the car. Officers found the bodies of Nancy and Joey Bochicchio inside the car. They had been tied up and shot. Nancy and Joey were bound with duct tape, plastic ties, handcuffs, and goggles. Their hands, feet, and necks were tied to prevent them from moving. Nancy's wrists were handcuffed. She had blacked out goggles over her eyes, and her head was tied to the headrest. Sure sounds very similar to the incident with Jane Doe.
Yeah, a lot of the same MO, right? I mean, the way that the victims were restrained, the fact that they were picked up at the same location, they went to the same ATM, and then they were returned to the same mall.
The cheap handcuffs restraining Nancy were broken, indicating she might have been fighting to get free.
She probably was trying to break free. Her kid was in the car with her.
Yeah, I'm sure she was doing everything within her power to get out. Now, when you say handcuffs, obviously they must have been pretty cheap. You don't break real metal handcuffs.
No, believe me, I've tried.
According to the Boca Raton police, there is no evidence to definitively say who broke the bonds. The Boca Raton police also wrote, there is no information to determine whether Nancy and Joey were shot at the Town Center Mall or at another location. There are no facts available regarding when the vehicle was returned to the Town Center Mall parking lot. And that's a big hole.
It is a big hole.
In the whole timeline of things, something else that would have been solved with the help of security cameras.
Absolutely.
Boca Raton crime scene technicians collected several hundred pieces of evidence. Some of that evidence was DNA. On December 14th, the city and the FBI posted a reward of up to $400,000. According to ABC, some people think that if the Jane Doe case had gotten more publicity, then maybe Nancy and Joey wouldn't have even gone to the mall.
Maybe.
Well, it's an important point to bring up. And I think you can tie it in with the security cameras. They didn't really believe Jane Doe at first. Even some of the comments they made to the papers were allegedly. They preface things by saying allegedly. So, if some of the facts would have come out if it had been more heavily reported. Would more people have been on guard when going to that mall?
Yeah, I think, if they've read the stories, they would have, especially if they would have talked about Randy's case and then rolled into Jane Doe. It's enough there for me to say, hey, let's just stay away from that mall for now.
Well, there's a pattern. And would it also have sparked more outrage that would have then caused the mall to put up the security camera? So it's kind of all a snowball or butterfly effect. John Ruley, president of Simon Property Group, told ABC that mall management relied on police to advise them. Police gave management no cause for alarm. So again, I think that kind of backs up some of our statements. Should they have done more? I would say yes. Should the police have taken things more seriously and maybe gone to them and said, hey, there's something going on here? I would say yes. And if they didn't do that, you can kind of spread the blame all around.
Yeah, I think there's more than one person to blame here.
Investigators canvassed different locations, analyzed surveillance footage, and they followed up on leads. 2 persons of interest were identified. A few days after the murders, the police got a report that 2 homeless men found Nancy's credit cards and cell phones in a predominantly black neighborhood in Miami. Police suspected that the killer could be trying to throw them off with this tip. And we got to go back to Jane Doe saying that her kidnapper told her to tell the police that he was black.
To find these credit cards in Miami, that's a good hour drive south. Well, maybe the police were right on thinking that these cards were placed in that area
on purpose to try to throw them off.
Yeah.
On December 18th, 2007, a picture of a man named David Goodman and a person known as Charles was released to media outlets. Charles was later identified as Charles Jackson. According to the Boca Raton police, Charles was believed to have had access to Nancy's cell phone after the murders. David Goodman is believed to have found Nancy's credit card. And I'm not sure, what to make of this, to be honest with you. On the one hand, you could say, okay, these people might have had something to do with it. They had these items. But you could also say that they found these items.
Sure.
And either just had the credit card, had the cell phone, even used them, but didn't have anything to do with the murders.
Well, if they were homeless, I'm sure they didn't really care what people thought.
True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Let's face it, sometimes multitasking can be overwhelming. Like when your favorite podcast is playing and the person next to you is talking and your car fan is blasting, all while you're trying to find the perfect parking spot. But then again, sometimes multitasking is easy, like quoting with Progressive Insurance. They do the hard work of comparing rates, so you can find a great rate that works for you, even if it's not with them. Give their nifty comparison tool a try, and you might just find getting the rate and coverage you deserve is easy. All you need to do is visit Progressive's website to get a quote with all the coverages you want, like comprehensive and collision coverage or personal injury protection. Then you'll see Progressive's direct rate, and their tool will provide options from other companies all lined up and ready to compare, so it's simple to choose the rate and coverages you like. Press play on comparing auto rates, quote at progressive.com to join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. There's some of us who feel as though we need to put off having fun until we feel as though we deserve it. I think we do enough every single day to earn some joy. You've already earned some fun, so have it. It's like giving yourself permission to eat dessert first. With Best Fiends, an exciting puzzle adventure game, you can have fiendish fun anywhere, anytime. Don't let having fun get pushed to the bottom of your to-do list. I've been playing Best Fiends for a long time. I'm well over level 400, and I still love it. That feeling of getting to that next level never gets old. Best Fiends is a free-to-download mobile puzzle game with thousands of exciting levels for new adventures and challenges every time you play. I love the fact that they have brand new events and challenges that pop up year-round, so you always have a chance to earn exclusive in-game items, characters, and rewards. They really do a great job of keeping the game fresh and fun. You've earned your fun time. Go to the App Store or Google Play to download Best Fiends for free. Plus, earn even more with $5 worth of in-game rewards when you reach level 5. That's friends without the R, Best Fiends. A few hours after this information came out, the Boca Raton police found Goodman at a Burger King in Miami. He was questioned at the Miami Police Department. After his interview with Boca Raton detectives, he was arrested by Miami PD on an unrelated warrant. On December 19th, Charles Jackson was found by the Boca Raton police in Miami. He was interviewed. He said he found Nancy's cell phone in the area of 1500 Northeast First Avenue in Miami. He was said to have been cooperative with the police. So I think just based on these two interviews and what happened afterwards, police must have determined that at the very least, we don't have any evidence,
right,
to charge them with anything. And most likely they just found these items and weren't involved in the murders at all.
But you then think, the police had to go out and search the area where they said they found the cell phone and the credit cards just to make sure nothing else was available. And then probably talk to people in the area to see, did they see anything? Did they recognize any strange thing going on?
Yeah, I'm sure they did that. But it must be that whatever came out of those searches and those questionings, they didn't lead to anything against Goodman or Jackson. The police proposed that Stuart Gornberg might have been the intended target of the Randy Gornberg murder. According to the police, he was seeing sex workers before Randy was killed and driving the Mercedes SUV. They thought it was possible that someone spotted his expensive vehicle and decided to follow him home one day. NBC reported that Palm Beach Sheriff Sergeant Bill Springer said in a press conference, it may be possible that he was a target, that someone may have followed him, knew where he lived, and that maybe he was the intended victim that day. But Randy happened to have been driving that Mercedes-Benz.
That's a possibility, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities. Now, what are they trying to convey by saying he was seeing sex workers? That he was in a certain type of area? I'm trying to figure out what they mean by that.
Right. I think you're right. I think they're trying to convey that.
Stewart's attorneys told NBC that the allegations of him hiring sex workers were baseless. They also said that he had to close his chiropractor practice because of media coverage.
Well, that type of publicity probably would not be good for your business.
No, I don't think it would be at all. A task force was formed to investigate these high-profile cases in the area, including the Bochicchio murders. Boca Raton Police Services Department and the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office detectives worked together on the cases. Police suspected that the same man that kidnapped Jane Doe also kidnapped and murdered Nancy and Joey. And I don't know how they couldn't. We talked about it.
Too similar
not to think that the same person committed both of these crimes. Jane Doe was brought back in to speak to the police. She said that the man was in his late 20s or early 30s. She also said that he had no body hair, but he did have an accent. And in her words, could have been Hispanic or Pacific Islander. He had a regular build. She saw that he had a ponytail and it was curly. She also said he had a kidnap kit in a plastic bag.
The old kidnap kits. Scary.
Yeah, I think if you're riding around with a bag and it contains zip ties, duct tape, goggles, these blacked out snow goggles, all of this stuff. I'm sure that's what she means by kidnap kit.
Every time I hear kidnap kit, I always think of Dennis Rader.
Yeah. That's a good thought. It's not a good thought, but I know what you're saying. I think police were confused about the motive. right? If the motive was money, he only got a few $100s. Now, we know people have killed for that much, even less. Police reviewed security footage and they felt confident that Nancy and Joey weren't targeted or stalked inside the mall. What they thought was that the killer most likely waited in the parking lot and saw them leave the mall. But they had their hands full. I mean, this is Christmas time, right?
Right.
It was said that about 70,000 people went in and out of this mall every single day. We already talked about the fact that there were no cameras in the parking lot. It's a tough ask, I think, of the police department to figure this out. What do they have to go on? Kind of a vague description?
Yeah, so if you have such a vague description, how are you going to be able to locate this person?
It didn't really say in the research. I imagine that they probably had people staked out in that parking lot, maybe looking for somebody that was sitting in their car, looking as though they were watching people come out. I didn't read that, but I can imagine that would be something that they could have done. But as in a lot of cases that we do, the public put a lot of pressure on police. The thought is there's a serial killer on the loose. By this point, you got to be fearful about going to that mall and really anywhere around it. You don't know if the perpetrator is going to switch up their MO and they know that the mall's probably being scrutinized. They're going to go somewhere else in that area.
Definitely a place I would stay away from. If I heard all this happening, I just know I would stay away from it.
There was one additional incident from August 2007. On August 10th, there was an incident at Meisner Park, an upscale shopping area of Boca Raton.
It's even nicer than the town center. It's like a notch above.
An armed man approached a woman in a parking garage and demanded that she drive to an ATM. The woman refused, threw her purse into the passenger seat, gave the man $200, and told him to go away. She refused to file a report, but then after the murders, she spoke to the police and gave them a description. And it turned out that her description pretty closely matched Jane's description.
Pretty smart of the woman, actually.
Well, it worked. Could it have gone badly? Possibly.
Yeah, could have.
I mean, that you never know in a situation how your actions are going to be taken by someone who's intent on, doing you harm. It worked out, but it could have gone very badly. In February 2008, Jane sat with forensic artist John McMahon from the Broward County Sheriff's Office to work on a new sketch. In early February of that year, the task force released details about Randy Gorenberg's death. On February 14th, the police released a composite sketch of the suspected Bochicchio killer. The killer is described as almost 6 feet tall, of medium build, between the ages of 18 and 25. Police believe that he had a ponytail. America's Most Wanted featured the Bochicchio case 3 times. The last episode aired on February 16th, 2008. They commissioned forensic artist John McMahon to enhance a sketch given by the August 7th victim. The task force sent their work to the FBI BSU to get a profile. Police were frustrated because although the descriptions matched, there were some inconsistencies. Police couldn't forensically link Randy's case to the other incidents.
I'm thinking of the description, and I'm thinking that's probably describing a pretty large population of that area.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and I think that's the problem with descriptions. They rule out a certain population.
Right.
But, if you think about 6 feet tall, almost 6 feet tall, a lot of guys are almost 6 feet tall, medium build. A lot of guys are medium build between the ages of 18 and 25. That number is probably pretty high.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how many have a ponytail, but you got to calculate that number. The problem is there's no database. There's no ponytail database.
Not yet.
Not yet. Something they got to work on.
You never like guys with ponytail anyway, because it means they have even more hair than you.
I know. Just gets my dander up.
Yeah, just like the rubbing it in.
In May 2008, the police interviewed Daniel Gorenberg. This time, he was said to have been cooperative, and he was officially ruled out as a suspect. So that was kind of just a very strange deal, I thought. Not being cooperative, giving the wrong clothes. Why? Now, could the case be made that he was in shock? He just found out that his mother had died? Maybe.
Yeah.
Same with Stewart. I don't know how I would act if the police showed up at my door and informed me that my wife, had been murdered.
Everybody's going to act differently in some way.
Jane Doe, Randy, and Nancy's families sued them all, alleging that they didn't have adequate security. The lawsuit filed by Joanne Bruno was eventually resolved in December 2010, but her attorney declined to give details.
I can see why they would sue.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of frivolous lawsuits, but I wouldn't call this one frivolous. I think there's a duty there to have something like security cameras as a security measure for your patrons. Like we said before, it wasn't like they didn't exist. The technology was around, had been around for a long time. For whatever reason, they just didn't have them. And I think especially by December of that year, after 2 incidents had occurred, you could really make the case that they should have been up. In September 2008, Jane Doe's lawyer, Skip Cummings, told ABC, "I believe that this gentleman is a serial killer. I believe he is very strongly involved in at least 3 of these murders, and who knows how many others." Okay, I understand that.
Sure.
I'm not sure why you'd call him a gentleman. This guy is obviously not a gentleman.
No, he's just a man.
If not something more derogatory.
Right.
A Palm Beach sheriff's officer told ABC, "I think these are unique cases. As far as calling it a serial killer, by definition, I can't commit to that." Boca Raton Police Captain Matt Duggan added, "We have no direct forensic links at this point, actually linking all 3 cases, but we're confident that the August Jane Doe and December Nancy Bochicchio case occurred by the same individual."
I think we all agree upon that.
I think we do too. What I find strange is calling these unique cases. By definition, I guess they are. They involve separate people.
Right.
But I got the feeling what he's saying is that they're not connected. And I find that very, very hard to believe. People in the public wondered why they didn't learn about the Jane Doe case until Nancy and Joey were murdered. Jane told ABC, "I just couldn't believe that it was taken so lightly. It's kind of sad." But I said, "Did I have to be murdered to be taken seriously?" And it angered me. Going back to us talking about that part, Jane Doe not being taken seriously. I didn't like that.
No.
I didn't think that was the right way to handle it. Now, the valet, whatever. We don't know how old that kid was, that guy. He's not a police officer. He's not a person in authority. But then when she goes to the police and they don't believe her, they make her take a lie detector test. That rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah. And then the police really didn't do anything with it. The mall didn't really do anything with it. And the media outlets didn't really do anything with it.
Because they didn't take it seriously. And see, that's kind of where the snowball effect comes in. In early June 2011, news outlets announced that the police searched for a fugitive named Michael Barrera. Barrera is a suspected gang affiliate from Miami-Dade County and is wanted for armed bank robbery, attempted murder of law enforcement, and other charges. He's also a person of interest in the Randy Gorenberg murder. According to NBC Miami, a CI contacted the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office about Barrera's alleged involvement in the Randy Gorenberg murder after hearing MS-13 gang members talking about the case, suggesting a hitman believed to be Barrera had assisted the gang. We talked about this surveillance video from the Home Depot that showed Randy's SUV followed by a silver Chrysler 300. Barrera's family owned a silver Chrysler 300 at the time of the murders. Police believe that he might have traveled between Florida and Mexico under a fake name. America's Most Wanted featured Randy's case on June 4th, 2011. According to the Boca Raton Tribune, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office Public Affairs Office Rep Eric Davis said probable cause does not exist to arrest Barrera for the murder. However, there are multiple outstanding warrants from Dade County against him, and we mentioned those, right? Murder on law enforcement, armed bank robbery, shooting at police during a high-speed chase. Obviously, this is not a good guy.
Yeah, he is dangerous. He's shooting at police.
So, I mean, if they found him, right, they're not ready to charge him or not able to charge him with the murder of Randy Gorenberg, but obviously they got a bunch of charges waiting for him. Investigators still don't know why gang members would target Randy Gorenberg. According to CBS Miami, on the 5th anniversary of Joey and Nancy's murders, the Bochicchio family and the Boca Raton police hosted a press conference. Chief Dan Alexander said, "We feel very confident in the evidence that we do have, that if we identify a suspect, we can tie that suspect to that evidence. It's a matter of identifying that individual or individuals that can point us in the right direction."
So it sounds like they have some strong evidence.
Well, and we did talk a little bit about DNA. He hasn't come out and say it's DNA, but it makes me think it is DNA that they haven't been able to match in a database. But if they had a suspect, they could match it to that person. That's what I'm thinking. On September 28th, 2015, a press conference was held by the FBI and Boca Raton police. According to WPBF, the FBI and Boca Raton police announced a new development in the Bochicchio case. Chief Dan Alexander said, "The investigation shows the plastic ties and duct tape were purchased from a major home improvement store in Miami-Dade County."
Okay. Breaking news?
Well, no, but, we go back to talking about how Nancy's wallet and phone were found pretty quickly, and they were found in Miami-Dade County. So I think the thought by investigators is that the killer lived in Miami-Dade County, may still live in Miami-Dade County, but I don't know. It's not a bombshell.
No.
Could somebody drive to any Home Depot or Lowe's 30 minutes to an hour away, buy something, and then come back?
Sure.
Now, what I will say is Miami-Dade is south of Boca Raton. It's pretty far south when you're dealing with Florida.
Yeah.
It's towards the bottom. So can you rule out that a person lives north? No, you can't. But would it make sense for them to drive all the way past Boca Raton, go to Miami-Dade, and come back? I don't know. I don't know what it means. I guess that's my point.
I mean, yeah, you'd have to be really thinking about how you want to throw people off.
Yeah. On November 8th, 2017, the Boca Raton PD released an 8-minute video on Facebook to bring attention to the Bochicchio investigation. The video included new photos of the crime scene. So, I find this very interesting. I mean, this is, 5 years ago, but the use of social media, it's kind of been really big in the Delphi murder case.
Yeah.
The use of social media, a lot of cases, because so many people are interested in true crime. They're interested in these cases. Whatever police can put out there that doesn't harm their case, right? Obviously, you don't want to put something out there that would jeopardize a conviction later on or something like that.
Right.
It can do nothing but good. Somebody may see it. They might know something. They might have seen it before, or it might tie back to someone they know.
It's such a huge resource.
It is.
You got to use social media today to enhance your investigations.
It's been 15 years since the murder of Randy Gorenberg, and December 12th will mark 15 years since the Bochicchio murders. If you have any relevant information about these cases, you can contact the Boca Raton Police Services Department at 561-338-1344 or contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-458-8477. So Gibbs, as we wrap up this case, it's a scary one. I mean, anytime to me, you have someone out stalking, looking for, targeting people. I think about it all the time when my wife and girls go to the mall.
Yeah.
The last thing I say to them before they walk out the door, if I'm not going with them, is be careful.
Keep your head on a swivel.
Keep your head on a swivel, especially, when you're parking, when you're getting out of your car, when you're walking back to your car. At least know what's going on around you. I know I've said it a million times. I'll probably say it a million more because I think it is so important. Don't bury your head in your cell phone and be oblivious of what's going on around you. I look in cars. I'm probably overprotective, but that's just how I am.
Yeah. But it's good though.
No, it is. It is. I mean, again, I don't want people to be scared. I don't want them to be paranoid, but I don't think that's being paranoid. I just think it's being prepared and looking out for yourself. But there's no doubt that there's a dangerous predator out there if this person is still alive, and you wonder what happened to them.
Yeah. Did he get arrested? Did he die?
Did he move on? There was so much heat there after Nancy and Joey's murder because that's when the publicity happened. Did this person just move away, target a different mall, other malls? That's the scary thought because obviously to this point, the person's not been identified. And I just don't think people like this probably just stop.
No, they just haven't been caught. But that's it for our case on the Nancy and Joey Bochicchio murders. We've got some voicemails. You want to check those out? Love hearing those.
Hello, this is Cloud again from Minnesota. I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you guys so much for being there. And I'm going through a hard time in life, but your True Crime All the Time Unsolved theme song is a bop. It's amazing. I love it. I hope you all have a good day and keep your own time ticking.
Oh, I'm so glad you called in. So glad you're doing well.
Yes.
Because that means a lot to us.
It does.
And, keep up with us. Reach out to us. We like to hear how people are doing.
We do. Hang in there.
Hey, Gibbon Tarantino, Fergadelic. Yo, this is Kyle out of Spokane, Washington. I just want to let you guys know that you're absolutely phenomenal in everything, in every aspect. Whether or not it's relating to your families and personal issues or being very sentimental to every victim in your cases. So I just want to let y'all know that it's mostly appreciated from not only me, but from everyone in the Scouts. Even my dog appreciates your podcast. So just giving a serious shout out. I want to let you know that you're most appreciated. Keep your own time thinning.
Well, appreciate the love.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. You know what I think, Gibbs, is if we could count dog downloads.
Oh, man.
That would really help us out tremendously.
I think his dog gave us 4 paws up.
Four. Why not 5?
There's only 4 paws.
Oh, that's true. Man, am I dumb?
5 dog paw? Man, that'd be
Man,
cool.
am I dumb? Man.
Hey, Mike, hey, Gibby, it's Adam from Galesburg, Illinois. Got a good one for you for Unsolved. It actually happened in Galesburg. A young man named Tyler Smith. He came down for the weekend for guard duty and went out drinking with his friends and was found dead in a ravine called Cedar Creek. And the investigation is still going on, and there were undoubtedly missteps by the Galesburg Police Department, and the Illinois State Police stepped in and took over. It's a great case. You ought to look into it and see what you think. And Mike, I don't know whether to say thank you or be mad at you, but I'm on level 200 of Best Fiends, and I'm hooked, and it keeps me busy at work when I'm listening to you guys. But stay safe, keep your own time ticking.
Oh, man, that Best Fiends will get you.
Oh, man. I know that you're pretty high up on that.
Yeah, I'm not allowed, I'm not allowed to say the A word.
Yeah.
They don't want you to say that it's, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
but it is. It kind of grabs you and doesn't let go.
Yeah.
But no, that's a case we'll check into. We'll definitely put it down on our list. All right, buddy, that's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Gather round for Halloween with Pluto TV's 31 Nights of Horror. All month long, Pluto TV is bringing you the best Halloween movies, shows, and more. Watch classic horror movies like The Grudge or The Blair Witch Project, or scream along with your favorite stars like Ryan Reynolds in Life. Pluto TV has hundreds of channels with thousands more movies and TV shows. The best part, it's so free it's chilling. No credit card, no sign up, no fees. Download the Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start screaming now.
How much is an hour of your time worth? Whether you're a realtor, lawyer, accountant, or even a content creator, Stamps.com gives you the ability to focus your time on what you do best, not on tedious mailing and shipping tasks. Print stamps, shipping labels, or certified mail forms in seconds. More than 4 million customers have relied on Stamps.com to make their lives easier. Go to Stamps.com/audio for a special offer. No contract, cancel anytime. That's Stamps.com/audio.